America, November 1st, 2025, 31 days into a government shutdown. So long it rewrote the record books. The nation's capital is paralyzed, offices dark, SNAP benefits frozen, children and soldiers left in limbo overseas. Hurricanes, drone strikes, and inferno burning LA to ashes across New York. Voters lining up. Mayor who calls himself a democratic socialist. The Muslim mayors, the very first in New York's history to be a Muslim mayor, calls himself a democratic socialist. He's a damn communist. That's what he is. While the ghosts of Andrew Cuomo and Donald Trump prowl city halls, shadowy halls, and as old statues topple and churches fill outside, a new AI-driven world takes flight. This is the week the ground really shook. On this podcast, we unravel it all for you, fearlessly, factually, and with faith. This is broadcast news. It's the cinematic reckoning. If you want safe spaces, change the channel. If you want the truth, buckle up, baby. Across the globe, cathedral bells ring and ancient cities quake. In D.C., a president demands the filibuster's death, and a judge threatens to force SNAP payouts. Families pray over empty tables, investors panic with every tweet, and on the border, ICE agents armed with facial recognition tech are making headlines of their own. This is not a drill. So, as the government shutdown is concerned, so who won? Giants or the Philistines? The city on the hill or the mob with the pitchforks? In the next few moments, we're gonna dive deep into the politics on fire, nature's fury, prophets of digital doom, money on the edge, culture wars, and the moral reckoning playing out right now in real time. For every headline, you'll get the facts, fury, and the fate. Hard hitting, capitalistic to the core, with humor, with memes, and with the courage most networks are too afraid to show. And the next segment is sponsored by one of our favorite sponsors. Thank you.
This segment has been sponsored by Anonymous Billionaires, keeping the troops paid while you wonder who's behind the curtain.
And grab yourself a drink, coffee, or whatever it is that you drink. Or in my case, it's always Dr. Pepper with strawberries and cream. Dr. Pepper. I'm not sponsored by Dr. Pepper, by the way. But hey, if Dr. Pepper wants to contact me, hey guys, you can. No problem. Because I drink you guys every day anyway. Might as well sponsor this channel. This is your world, and this is your fight. Where will you stand?
This is the RusNkaZ Show. Bam, bam, calling shots like a maestro. This is the RusNkaZ Show. Where the wild and the crazy grow. Turn it up, feel the rhythm flow. Hustle rock, bam, bam. Let's go, let's go.
Thursday night, day 31. The shutdown officially becomes the longest in U.S. history. 14 failed Senate votes. Washington grinding into irrelevance. In Trump country, a calls to arms and the filibuster passed the bill, opened the country, but behind closed doors, you hear it. Frustration at the president's own party, who can't even unite around the continuing resolution. Senate Majority Leader Thune tramples on optimism, admitting they're flying blind, stripped of labor market data and polling thanks to the data blackout. But while Congress flounders, the true explosion comes at the bailout box. If you still believe cities like New York can go red or that Virginia's northern strategy is dead, think again. Though not the way you'd hope. Election day 2025. Democrats sweep only gubernatorial seats up for grabs, not a mayoral win in hyper-progressive New York City, and a push through a power grab redistricting in California designed to wipe out Republican seats before the midterms. In New Jersey, Democrat Mikey Sherrill defeats Republican Jack Ciattarelli by starting 13 points, flipping a state Trump had made serious inroads into last year. In Virginia, Abigail Spanberger crushes GOP favorite Earl Sears by over 15 points, becoming Virginia's first female governor and promising to choose our commonwealth over chaos. That's chaos code for Trump's shutdown. Lost you the state, Mr. President. El Presidente. But the real terror, New York City elects its first Muslim democratic socialist mayor. As I have said, a true communist trying to seize the means to production. An open Israel critic who shouts out Eugene Debs in his acceptance speech. Mamdani claims a mandate to terrify a depot, and you know exactly which one he's talking about. Trump, forced into the odd position of supporting Andrew Cuomo, the man he'd once called a disaster, warns that the city should expect zero chance of survival with a communist in charge. The National Republican Congressional Committee instantly declares every Democrat complicit in the collapse of America's greatest city. Socialism wins. Expect delays. It's gonna be the number one meme probably going around. Could definitely mention one of our best sponsors.
This segment has been sponsored by the Plug Walk Challenge. Because walking your toaster is cheaper than walking your dog.
And with California passing Prop 50, green lighting a Democratic gerrymander to counter red states, Trump-backed maps. The message for conservatives is clear. You gotta play offensive or you're not playing at all. Across all four contests, exit polls mirror a theme. Americans angry about food prices, inflation, and the shutdown. Ironically, they reward Democrats. Not for competence, but for not being the party with the keys right now. Did the shutdown doom GOP? Voters, even those learning toward Trump in 24, punish whoever they see as responsible for their pain. As SNAP funds grind to a halt, airports declare emergencies, and families brace for Thanksgiving without certainty. Plenty are ready to hold their government accountable, even if it means swapping socialism light for chaos in blue states. And all the while, House Freedom Caucus suggests keeping government on life support with a CR until after the 2026 election. Permanent stalemate, anyone? And our next sponsor.
This is a clear violation of the Fair Slice Act.
I found it unattended.
Finders keepers, Senator. Give me the pepperoni. We agreed to shared stewardship of the snack tray.
Come on. We're watching the greatest power on earth test itself to destruction. What's revealed in the ruins is not just dysfunction, but which tribes own the future. The ones who fight for order, faith, and freedom, or the ones who promise high-speed rail and basic income on borrowed money paid for by your grandkids' future? Do you want somebody who wants to take money from others and spread it equally amongst everybody? I just wonder where he's gonna get all that money. Who is he gonna be robbing to give it to everybody? Because it doesn't matter how hard you work, it's gonna be towards the common good, towards one single common good goal for everybody. It doesn't matter how hard you work or what you do, you're still gonna get an equal amount. Therefore, it doesn't matter if you just stay home, play video games all day and all night, you're still gonna get an equal portion. So guys, just chill at home, watch TV, play video games. You guys still gonna get the same amount if you go out and work and do something productive for the community. That's how I see it. Sometimes the politics doesn't matter because the world itself is tearing at the seams. In the week, our government froze. Nature didn't care. It didn't pause, didn't beg for a budget. October's final days served up as a brutal reminder. This planet is not a safe space for unprepared. Like start in Southern California, for example, where January's wildfires now fully tallied, reroute the record book, $61.2 billion in damage, neighborhoods in ashes. The LA left wondering if the only Green New Deal left is the landscape scorched past fixing. Officials cautioned that insured losses were up to $45 billion, but much of the real pain was uninsured, unseen. Some say it's climate change. Others say it's mismanagement. And you know how I stand. Big ass mismanagement. Flash forward to this week. Hurricane Melissa tears through the Caribbean, smashing into Jamaica like a biblical judgment. Category 5. the strongest ever recorded on the island. Prime Minister Holness stands on twisted power lines, calling Black River almost totally destroyed. At least 19 dead in Jamaica, 30 more in Haiti, and in Cuba, over 60,000 houses either washed away or wrecked. 2 million Cubans needing assistance. From Haiti, more dead in the rivers and flash floods. The UN races to set up relief, but the scars will last a generation. And the next segment is sponsored by one of our favorite sponsors.
Breaking news. I can't read this, but I look amazing doing it.
Just read the top.
Oh, it says subscribe to my podcast.
In the US, however, the pain from natural disasters stacks up higher than our federal deficit. 14 separate billion-dollar weather events in just the first half of this year. Tornadoes, flash floods, and storms spanning everything from Texas to the East Coast. FEMA, still limping along thanks to the reactive, not proactive funding, had burned through half its yearly disaster budget already, just days into the 25 fiscal year. Then came the shutdown, leaving aid stranded, families desperate for help, and Congress arguing about who gets the blame. What have we learned? That inaction, indecision, and politics have real-world costs, sometimes paid in the ashes of homes, sometimes in the floodwater swallowing entire neighborhoods. Yet the left wants to leverage these catastrophes for spending on grand climate plans, while right declares incompetence and red tape growing in blue state capitals. Whatever your politics side, disaster is bipartisan, but disaster relief is bipartisan, at least when the coffers are empty and the anger is high. It's not just the hurricanes, fires, and floods on the world stage. Sudan's EI, Fasher falls to armed militias. Congo's mourns the dead from a house fire. Porto Iguazu in Argentina reels from a bus plunging off a bridge, all within these 7 days. The world seams are splitting. And as the physical world cracks, so does the digital. And this next segment is brought to you by...
This has been sponsored by Paid Vacations for Congress.
But you're still getting paid, right?
Next question.
In 2025, the talking points about AI being the next big thing weren't bold enough. This week, AI didn't just disrupt, it detonated. October closes with the launch of OpenAI's Sora 2, a platform capable of generating a 10-second hyper-realistic video with perfectly synced audio and realistic physics.
We must protect our youth from dangerous apps.
New dance challenge uploaded.
Sir, that's your account. For research purposes.
Forget deep fakes. Sora 2 is bending the digital space around anyone with a camera and just a prompt. You want yourself staring in James Bond chase as Bigfoot's sidekick or inside the Minecraft remake of The Sopranos? You've got it. The iOS app rocketed 1 million plus downloads in less than a week. Within hours, TikTok and Facebook Reels were flooded with surreal, memorable clips. College students dropping themselves into famous viral moments. Newscasters deep-faked into awkward situations. And politicians morphing their likeness to sway voters in far-off states. But Sora 2 wasn't only Marvel in medicine. Delphi-2M, an AI model trained on millions of real-world health records, now forecasts not just single diseases, but entire health trajectories. 1,000 plus conditions 20 years out. No more waiting for doctors to guess if you will have a heart attack at 65. The machine already knows. Sound enticing? There's a catch. Experts warn about algorithmic bias, data privacy nightmares, and the day when your insurance company buys these models to set your premium rates. Oh yeah, so the next segment is sponsored by our favorite insurance company.
AI took my job and now the hidden tax is killing my savings.
And it doesn't stop there. In the cosmos, Oxford's AI finds rare astronomical events from tiny, incomplete datasets. In industry, China's DeepSeek R1 routes around United States. Chip makers bring in AI training costs down, threatening our Silicon Valley edge. The hardware wars aren't just about commerce, they're about who owns civilization's thought process. And the next segment is brought to you none other but China's favorite.
This has been sponsored by Forgotten Roads.
We're going to Mars. Madam, we still don't have Wi-Fi in rural towns.
Mars first, potholes later.
And while the digital prophets promise salvation, miracles in medicine, in media, in manufacturing, there is a warning, loud and clear. AI, like any replacement good, demands worship. At this week's RNS Symposium, the brightest minds warn that technology is no longer just a tool, it's an ideology, a new gospel, complete with its own priests, rituals, and anti-mythologies. Millions will kneel before the algorithm, its judgments more trusted than the God who formed Adam from the dust. Flashback to fate, can you still claim moral authority over your tools, or does the tool own you? Is your work made in God's image or some machines? We say this is, if you don't tell the machines who you are, they'll tell you who you are, and silence will be all that's left. And as the digital and divine blend like storm and sky, it's your money, it's your truth, it's your future out on the line. And next segment is brought to you by our favorite Wall Street money firm.
This has been sponsored by Wall Street, turning your savings into our bonuses since forever.
Don't worry, your retirement is safe with us.
In the eye of DC shutdown, America's economy suffered a beating more brutal than any hurricane. The market, seeing uncertainty and chaos take fright. The Fed's cut rates a second time in a year, now down a quarter point to 3.75% to 4% band. The message from Powell: we don't know what's coming next. Data is missing, the government is closed, inflation stays stubborn. So I guess that's what we're gonna do. What does that mean for you though? Mortgage rates dropped to a 13-month low, 6.18% on a 30-year fixed. Mortgage refinancing inches up. But home buyers, already battered by high prices and shattered confidence, barely move. 17 states see housing inventory surge beyond pre-pandemic levels, but failing rates can't fix a market paralyzed by fear and a still limping jobs engine. The dollar, for now, remains king. And the next segment is brought to you none other but our...
This has been sponsored by Broken Promises Fitness, where candidates drop the weight every time.
Sorry, gotta take this. We're stronger together, as long as no one asks us to lift anything heavy.
Sponsored by Broken Promises Fitness, results may vary, and usually don't.
We're stronger together as long as no one asks us to lift anything heavy.
But at the Congressional Budget Office, shutdown-induced data holes mean real economic losses, 7 to 14 billion just in these 31 days. Markets can't price tomorrow if the government can't even publish jobs data. On Wall Street, the stock includes wobble, fueling pessimism that the old playbook, cutting rates, printing money, praying for recovery just isn't enough this time. Meanwhile, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent coordinates with the Fed, calling the latest move defensive as weakness in labor markets, rising layoffs, and a housing sector teetering towards recession all loom. Investors facing historic volatility, unsure if the next turn is up or down or off a cliff altogether. But the pain in Main Street, that's not abstract, as benefits like SNAP, the food stamps, lock up for 42 million Americans, and core battles play out over emergency funds. Real families go hungry. Airports warn of closing airspace for lack of controllers. Thanksgiving plans across the country are on hold, while SNAP mothers plead in open court for relief. USCIS, the immigration office, meanwhile ends automatic EAD extensions, squeezing thousands of immigrant workers' livelihoods, further fraying our already brittle labor market. A revolution in e-filing begins, a positive but one lost in the flood of crisis. speaking of crisis, our next segment is brought to you by none other but...
This has been sponsored by Paid Vacations for Congress.
We're shutting down the government to save money.
But you're still getting paid, right?
Next question.
The lesson is clear. Faith, work, and responsibility, not state handouts, build real security. But make no mistake, when the state breaks its promises, it's the faithful and hardworking who get punished. And as the economic tempest rages, the culture war heats to a boil. And the next section is brought to you none other but our New York's mayor's most supported, allegedly supported sponsor, allegedly.
That will be $3.50. Please wait 45 minutes for approval of your organic produce purchase.
And this is precisely why my administration must lead in this consequential mayoral election. No.
Through Act a Billion, new big capital dollars in the city's 10-year capital plan.
It's the week in social media exploded. Reality outstripped parody. New York, for over a century, a capitalist metropolis, elects Zoran Mamdani, proudly calling himself a democratic socialist, as a mayor. But we all know who he really is. A real, true communist. Because he's trying to seize the means of production. Which means end all the contracts and abolish private property ownership.
The end goal of seizing the means of production.
Seizing the means of production. That means government controls most everything. To house poor people, government should take over apartment buildings.
Whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now.
But abolition, that means government controls most everything. To house poor people, government should take over apartment buildings.
Whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now.
But abolition of private property has been tried.
¿Y este edificio?
Es un edificio que tiene comercio privado de joyería.
Expropiese.
Everywhere it's been tried, government ownership wrecks lives. Here's what grocery stores sometimes look like in socialist Venezuela. Yet Mamdani says,
I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive and will pass on those savings to you.
No profit motive. That appeals to people. But the profit motive is exactly what keeps stores stocked and why we spend much less on food than we did 100 years ago. And why we have more options.
Hundreds of sales every week?
We have choices because capitalists must compete to get your dollars. Compare your experience at your profit-seeking grocery store to
dysfunction at the DMV.
Government services bring tedious bureaucracy.
People say hours-long waits have been greeting them at the doors.
I don't want my grocery store run like that.
Shelves are empty at an East Kansas City grocery store that's gotten millions of dollars from taxpayers.
Cities have tried subsidizing groceries, but the results aren't pretty.
A rotten smell comes through the door, and anywhere you turn, you'll see products that need to be restocked.
I watch people walk in and walk out.
Yet Mamdani promises
city-owned grocery stores with guaranteed lower prices.
Even if Mamdani's stores work better, they'll cost tax dollars and take customers from businesses that pay taxes.
How are you going to try to come in and disrupt our livelihood?
Mamdani doesn't discuss how subsidies destroy private tax-paying competition. He just says socialism helps everyone by taking from the ultra-rich.
Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires.
Mamdani says he'll fund his handouts by taxing the rich. But wealth taxes never bring in what's promised.
People don't work to pay taxes.
Economist Art Laffer famously pointed out that at a certain level, higher taxes stop bringing in more money because rich people work hard to escape high taxes.
They'll change where they earn their income. They'll change how they earn their income. They'll change how much they earn, when they receive the income. They'll change all of those things to minimize
the end goal of seizing the means of production.
his victory speech, shouting Eugene Debs, Dragon Como, and the politics that answer only to the few, reverberates from Brooklyn to every GOP war room in America. Como concedes graciously, stressing his campaign was a caution flag for a country barreling down a dangerous road. Across the city, renters rejoice, freeze the rent, while landlords panic at the coming regulatory onslaught. The new mayor is backed by a coalition of renters, young people, and progressives who claim his win not just as a political earthquake but the start to a cultural revolution. Everything free. So is our next sponsor, brought to you none other but our free sponsor, who we're doing the sponsorship for free, as you know, because we're moving towards the communism. And California passes redistricting Prop 50, blue on blue gerrymandering for the midterms ahead, sidestepping independent commissions, all to keep the GOP out. In the eyes of the national right, this is a naked, permanent coup. Gavin Newsom now eyed for 2028, dares other blue states to join him. Meet the moment head on, he says. On the Hill, Republicans push back, turning Mamdani into a boogeyman for every heartland House race. Speaker Mike Johnson warns of consequences felt across our entire nation. I'm pretty sure it's going to be around our entire world, not just the nation, with his policies and his standing, especially how many youngsters who are future leaders going to be leading this nation. Oh, yeah. It's going to be a far left disaster. Meanwhile, in Virginia and New Jersey, historic wins by Democrats show pragmatic, not radical politics still hold sway among older voters, if only for now. But even here, the governing class divides, past scandals, policy splits on woke issues, and the long shadow of a Trump administration mired in a record shutdown. International violence and repression mount. In Sudan, the RSF massacres thousands in the AI Fasher, drawing UN condemnation. In Brazil, a police raids and riot kills 119, igniting days of protest. In Iran and Tanzania, the local culture wars look less like arguments over textbooks and more like fights for survival, with executions, disappearances, and extrajudicial killings are the norm. At home, ICE and CBP launched facial recognition crackdowns, while viral video shows a mother tackled on the way to school in Virginia, law enforcement acting with impunity, emboldened as the line between civilian and state power blurs. All this as U.S. military leaders quietly prepare quick reaction forces for a riot control in all 50 states, and not so subtle nod to the tensions boiling on beneath. What does tie it all together? In every nation, in every city, in every household, the battle for meaning is in full force. And all you conservatives, Christians, capitalists, if you ain't at the barricades, you're already on the ash heap of history. As politics, nature, technology, and culture all shake the world's foundations, the one refuge remains faith. But 2025's fate isn't safe or sentimental. It's a crucible, contested ground. At this week's Religion News Service Symposium in New York, scholars, pastors, and activists acknowledge what every congregation already knows. Faith in America endures, but the tests are harder than ever. Churches, once the last shelter from the storm, now are divided over technology, politics, and how to show love to both neighbor and enemy. One panel called Technology the New Gospel, with AI-powered platforms shepherding flocks for profit, deciding what you see and what you believe. Catholic and Protestant, Orthodox and evangelical leaders struggle to reclaim moral authority in an era where the algorithm feels more real than the living God. But hope remains, and it's not blind optimism. It's sacrifice, presence, and genuine love. In a season of rage, as Latino evangelicals feel betrayed by both parties, and as wrestled refugees lose safety nets, the work continues. Churches across the nation step into the breach, feeding the hungry who slip through the bureaucratic cracks, holding shelter services for families denied food stamps. On the ground, new cathedrals rise, literally so, in Bucharest, where the Romanian Orthodox Patriarch consecrated the national cathedral's mosaic iconography before a crowd of thousands. In the U.S., drive-through churches serve communion to worshippers stuck between hope and hunger. In every city, small faith-based nonprofits do the quiet work that governments cannot, precisely because they aren't constrained by woke ideology or paralyzed by navel-glazing political correctness. The faith leaders most war-following demand accountability, call out both left and right for their failures, and insist on the discipline of rebuilding, not hibernating, still not snowflakes, resolve, not resignations. In the face of terror, from Charleston churches to Pittsburgh synagogues, they model defiantly what it means to love enemies, not just your friends. To our audience, to all the conservatives, Christians, lefties, who capitalists, non-capitalists, communists, this is the call. Build, don't burn. Give, don't take. Preach, don't ponder. In crisis only, the church, the strong, the sturdy, the honest, can save the soul of a nation. That's my message to everyone. And as every storm scandal and shutdown shakes the world, the only safe harbor remains, not in Washington, Hollywood, or Silicon Valley, but in the promise made on a cross 2,000 years ago. So light a candle, plant your flag, and remember, the major of humanity is good. We never get to see the good because what's reported is always the ugly, the dirty side. We know there is good out there, and we're the ones who go look for it. This week wasn't just a warning, it was a reckoning. The system didn't bend, it broke. The storm didn't pass, it carved new coastlines. The sermons weren't preached, they were coded. And the protests weren't isolated, they were synchronized. We watched the capital lock itself in chains. We watched hurricanes rewrite geography. We watched machines speak in tongues. And we watched the world march not toward unity, but toward upheaval. But there is the truth. Chaos doesn't scare us because we were built for this. We were built to stand when others kneel, to speak when others are whispering, to build when others burn. We can be conservative, we can be liberals, it doesn't matter, but as long as we're Christian and believe in one and holy God, we can stand together. That's not branding, that's battle armor. So as the curtain falls on this week, we don't retreat, we reload, recalibrate, and we rise. This was the breakdown, this was the reckoning, and this was the week the world blinked, and we stared back. I'm your host, Bam Bam, and this has been another episode of the RusNkaZ Show. Subscribe and put your comments below. Thank you.
Catch the wave, let your dreams ignite. In the world of business, reach new heights. Join the journey, hear the words unfold. Bam Bam's vision, turning stories to gold.